Hello, everyone. Just waiting a couple of minutes or just a little bit for everyone to join if they want to. Can y'all hear me? If you mind typing in the comments if you can hear me or not. Alrighty, I got some thumbs up, so I guess we're all good to go. My name is Meteorologist Hope Boland. I'll pull up my camera right now. Hello, everyone. How is it going? Oops, my phone's still on. I have been working this morning tracking the storms, so we're going to talk about our storm potential tonight. But as you can see, today has really been pretty similar to what we've been dealing with the past several days. It started off fairly cloudy this morning. I think we'll see a little bit of that breaking up this afternoon, and we are fairly breezy, gusting to around 30 to 35 miles per hour, getting relatively warm into the mid 80s. So that's really nothing new. That's what we've been dealing with for the past several days, really. But tonight, that's when the forecast starts to change up just a little bit. Alrighty, taking it back to my graphics here, you can see the weekend forecast. I have the middle of it highlighted because starting late afternoon this evening, that I think is around the time we're going to start to see some heavy showers slash storms move in to our western parts of the coastal bend. So that's going to be like the tip of B County and Live Oak County. So that's when we're going to start seeing some activity. Not for everyone again, but that's when that cold front is starting to enter the coastal bend. Now I do want to show you what we are looking at right now in terms of activity in Texas. This is a live radar. I have a bunch of the radars turned on throughout the state of Texas right now. The last I checked, that front, and this was like a couple minutes ago, that front that we are watching to move through the coastal bend is in the San Antonio area, but you can see there is a lot of activity behind that right now, that we're seeing some showers, some areas with some storms too. I think there's some lightning associated with it. If we just zoom in, you can see there's some pockets moving like east of San Antonio where you can see some storms that have developed there. So we are watching that front to come into the coastal bend, and we'll likely see some activity from it. The reason that we're going to see some activity from it is that today we're really going to see an influx in some moisture. So we're going to really see our atmospheric moisture increase. We're also going to be really primed for convection tonight, which means that our storms are able to grow big and tall, and that is what helps them get strong and what helps them get severe. So we're going to have both of those things. We're also going to see the lift from the surface with the front. So if we can get the front to slide into the coastal bend, that is what is going to help really kickstart things and get the air lifted up to where it can grow and condense, and we can see some storms develop. Now we really need the rain, but on the downside we could see some strong to severe storms with that. So we have highlighted tonight into tomorrow morning with a weather impact alert. So again, I think around 5 p.m. is like the earliest we could see this front coming in, unless it moves a little quicker coming into our area. But really the evening is when we're pinpointing for some strong storms. The SPC does have us under a level 2 risk, or some of us under a level 2 risk. So with that, we are watching for the potential of, if a severe storm does develop, there could be some hail as well as some strong wind gusts. We're also looking for the potential for some microbursts with that. And so as you go towards the evening today, just make sure that you have your phone charged. You have ways to receive your alerts. Your alerts are on tonight, and of course Kristen Walla will be live. I believe today is 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock, and once the storms are moving through, she's going to be live probably on streaming as well, so stay tuned for that. But just to go over it a little bit, this is what we're expecting. You can see the front here on Futurecast and the line of storms along it. Now, does it exactly look like that right now? Not really. It looks not as a uniform line, but as we get closer to that front entering the coastal bend, you can see that red and yellow behind that front there, where we may really see either a line of storms or some individual storms, cluster storms, moving through our northwestern counties there. So that's what we're watching out for. I think target areas are going to be Live Oak, Duval, maybe Jim Wells County. So really, again, those more northwestern, more brush country areas that we're looking at. And so in terms of the SPC outlook and our severe risk, we are, again, in a level 2 risk, but that's for those counties I really just named. It does include a little bit of Refugio, San Patricio, and a tiny little piece of Nueces County there, but it's got the totality of B and Live Oak are in that slight risk, so it's a level 2 out of 5 risk for some severe weather. The rest of the coastal bend, we're in a marginal risk, so it's there, but it's not as high as our northwestern counties. So again, the severe risks that we're really looking at if something were to develop is going to be some hail and some strong winds. Now, severe categories, for something to be deemed severe, the winds have to be greater than 58 miles per hour, or hail greater than an inch, or a tornado. Now, it doesn't have to be all 3 of those categories. It just has to hit one of those categories for it to be deemed severe. So even if you see some hail and maybe it's dime or nickel sized, that wouldn't be deemed severe. But of course, yes, you never want to see some hail. Now, some things you can start to think about for this evening, especially if you live in those more target areas that I was talking about, is that for large hail, if you have a place to put your car under cover, that would be beneficial. Moving any plants inside that you either don't want to get blown over, or you don't want any hail damage for any outdoor furniture that could be blown over, because again, we could be looking at some very strong winds there. Any unsecured objects, secure them or move them inside. We also have the potential to see some flooding in some areas. That's really going to be dependent on how this front sets up and how the storms really spark off of this front. If we see multiple storms in the same area, that's when you could start to think maybe flooding, but we're so dry that a lot of the rain will probably soak into the ground. So it's just, if we have an area that seems to really heavy downpours in a really fast period of time, that's when we could start to see some pooling of some water, or if multiple storms roll over the same area. So we are watching for that. In terms of that flooding potential, we are in a marginal risk. So this is a level 1 out of 4 risk for some flooding tonight, really. So we'll be watching out for that. It doesn't include all of the coastal bend. I think it leaves out some of Clayburgh County and Kennedy County, if I'm looking at that correct, and Nueces County. So really, again, it's just those northwestern area. It kind of cuts the coastal bend in half there, and more of the southeastern counties aren't included. So we'll be monitoring that risk, but I think that the severe risk is maybe a little bit higher there. In terms of our rain coverage forecast, now y'all, I'm going to be so real. This was hard. In the last, since yesterday, models have really shifted, and it feels like we are leaning towards less rain, especially in coastal communities. So one of the models that we look at is the HER. It is a high-res model, and it really yesterday was more so, or even early this morning, was pinpointing like B and Live Oak as where we could see a lot of rain. And that in the latest model run, so it does another model run each hour, has shifted more southwest to maybe Duval County. So it's really shifted where those rainfall totals are going to be. But if you compare it to other models, they're kind of all over the place. So this is my best blend of some of the models. It does look like our coastal communities may not see a whole ton of rain. However, if we do see some of these higher totals of rain in Bee and Live Oak counties, that can be really good for our lakes. So even if you don't end up seeing any rain or much rain, if we do get rain in our northern brush country, that would be a beneficial thing. I do think there's still a possibility that we do see isolated 2 inches in certain areas or even higher. That's really going to be dependent on where those heavy storms set up. I also think we have the potential for some boundaries to combine. I'll get to that. Well, actually, I don't have that set up right here, so I have to go pull a graphic to be able to show y'all. But I do want to show you what I'm talking about in terms of we have the potential to see some storms moving from both the north with the front and also from the southwest. So let me show you here. It has to populate. Alrighty, so as we're getting towards 5 o'clock, you can see, this is our in-house model, by the way. So this is the one that our computer graphic system specifically has. You can see that around 5 o'clock, we start to see that line, that front moving in to Bee and Live Oak County. And then watch the corner of the screen. So the left side of the screen, you can see lots of red near Hebronville, southwest of that. There is a low that's sitting there. And I think where that low pressure is sitting, that can send off some storms and send it from the southwest. And so if we have the boundary of those storms as well as stuff coming from the front, if those collide, that's where we could really see some stronger stuff. So I'm going to continue to play this out for you guys. You can see, I think target zone for the most intensity in our northwest counties is going to be from about 5-6 o'clock, so dinner time, to really midnight. And then you can see it works its way inward there, but the intensity really goes down after midnight, where we're seeing some showers throughout the coastal bend, kind of random of where they're going to set up. I think that front stalls in our area. That's what it looks like based on models, is that it's going to stall in the coastal bend. That's beneficial for us seeing some rain. Now, if it doesn't stall in the coastal bend, we would be looking at different rainfall totals, potentially not as high as we're looking at right now. So there's still a shot of seeing some rain throughout the coastal bend. You can see as we get closer to sunrise, this looks pretty scattered. It also looks like there's a potential for another storm or at least heavy downpour to be shot out of the southwest again, so closer to Duval County. And this is, again, around sunrise tomorrow. And this model does account for daylight saving times. It does jump from 1:59, if you can see here, to 3. So that's all accounted for with this model right now. So you can see we may still be looking at some heavy downpours, some storms in the morning hours tomorrow, but most of it looks to be, especially in those coastal communities, so in Nueces County, most of it looks to be some showers that we're looking at. And then look, we get to noon and it really looks like we're seeing just less, potentially watching out for a couple more showers, maybe a storm, but most of that activity is going to fall overnight and then some in the morning. But as we get later in the morning to about 12 o'clock, that's really going to start to trend down tomorrow. Alrighty, let me get back to my normal stuff. So I'm just going to put up the 7-day right now and go through questions if we have any. Scratch that, my phone died. So I will work on getting questions in just a little bit, but I'm going to put up the active radar right now, turn off my mic for a second, and work to get my Facebook Live back up so I can see some of your questions. Alrighty, I'm back. I have found a phone that I can use right now to really just be able to answer some of your questions. So, somebody asked, how is how is northern B County? So, if we want to look at that just again on Futurecast here, it does look like northern B County could see some of those storms that we were talking about. However, with the latest model data, in one of the models at least, it is not necessarily bullseyeing it like it was. But if you can see here, the red and the yellow, we can still see some of those storms, heavier rain in B County. Somebody asked strong storm around what time? So the time we're going to be looking for those strong storms, again, I can't say a specific hour, but there is a range of hours we are going to be talking about it. It's really starting, I think, about 5-6 p.m. if you live in northern Live Oak, B County. That's when we're starting to see some rain, maybe some heavy rain. And then you can see as we get closer to 8-9 o'clock, if you live in Duval, Jim Wells, Live Oak, B, you can see here that intensity will likely increase, even going towards 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's where this model specifically blows it up. This might be the front as well as some southwesterly stuff coming together and those boundaries colliding. I think if that happens, we definitely could see some strong stuff, potentially severe. So the times to really be alert and keep your notifications on is going to be, I think, really specifically between 8 and midnight, unless this front moves in earlier. But be alert from about 6 to midnight. And then even after midnight, we could still see some storms, but it does look to the intensity to really die down, and a lot of it to just be some showers until this particular model wants to throw out another storm or heavy downpour in Duval County going into Live Oak tomorrow morning. So after the sun has risen tomorrow morning. Again, in terms of severe weather, the SBC has our northwestern counties highlighted. So we're all in, oh, this is the flood risk, hold on. We're all in at least a level 1. Okay, but the places that should be more concerned for the potential, not saying that everything will be a severe storm. I do think strong storms are definitely possible, but the potential for some severe weather, a greater potential, is again going to be Live Oak, be good portion of Duval County, some of Jim Wells, a sliver of Nueces, San Patricio, and about the western half of Refugio County. So again, not everyone's going to see a severe storm, but if it does develop, what we're looking at is potential for some hail and some strong winds. Now, our normal winds that we've been seeing, those breezy winds, those are going to start to die down in the evening. However, if we see a storm, that's when we could start to see some stronger winds. Severe winds would be really greater than 58 miles per hour. So that's why we're suggesting to, especially if you live in the yellow area there, to any outdoor decorations, outdoor furniture, anything you don't want blown away easily, to move inside to secure. And if you do have a carport, that would, I think, go with caution, right? We don't want the worst to happen. So if you have the possibility to move your car indoors or under a carport or in a garage, that would be best. Somebody asked, how is tomorrow afternoon looking? So it's going to really turn down in the afternoon, really about lunchtime. I think that activity is going to sharply decrease. Go back over to Futurecast here. Alrighty, so playing through just quickly Saturday night into Sunday, you can see showers increase around sunrise. Sorry, went way too fast. Potential for maybe some heavier downpours going back through, pushing north through Live Oak B again. And then you can see really maybe some coastal showers, maybe another storm or heavy downpour popping up from the south, but really not much into the afternoon. So definitely if you're going to be out and about in the morning, especially early morning, you're going to want an umbrella, but I think the afternoon is going to be fine to do things outside. We're looking at temperatures that are probably going to be around 80 degrees again, so I think it is still going to be warmer. I think it depends on how much rain we get, if we have some rain cold air, but because that activity moves away in the morning, we are going to be able to heat up with those clouds breaking up as well. Alrighty, any other questions? Willing to go back and review anything? Okay, somebody asked, when and where is this? Just got on. So if you're in the Gregory, Portland area, I do think that coastal communities are going to see less rain and less chance for some storms. You have a shot at some rain, shot at some showers, but that target area for those storms is really going to be Live Oak, Duval, Jimwell, those areas. Those are the areas that are highlighted in that level 2 out of 5 risk for some severe weather. You can see here on the map where it looks all red. That is particularly, I think, what we have to watch out for tonight to see if it's just going to be strong or if we see severe weather. I think the best chance for us seeing some severe weather is going to be if storms coming from the north collide with storms coming from the southwest. If that happens, that can intensify the storm. And then we can look at some really strong stuff, potentially some severe stuff. We could see some severe stuff outside of it too. Really going into this evening, we're warm, right? So we've got a lot of ability for some convection, especially if we see those clouds break up. That's a good sign for convection later tonight. We've also got a lot of moisture. Looking at models, that moisture is really going to increase with this system. So a lot of moisture. That front gives us some lift from the surface. That is helpful for some storms to form. that convection really helps storms to grow. And if they grow taller, they can be stronger. So that is what we are looking at going into tonight. We have all the ingredients there for it to form. Now, if we see a line of storms, like this is suggesting, we might be looking at more of heavy rainfall, wind threat. If we see individual storms pop up, a supercell, that's where we could be looking at more of a hail threat if we do see this. This is suggesting potentially a line of storms, but it does break up. So we're just gonna have to watch that. I have a question of, do I think it will be training southwest to northeast? Not as a whole, but I think with those southwest storms coming in, yes, it looks like they could go over the same areas. This does look like, I play this out. That looks like southwest to northeast. And for those that don't know what training is, that's basically where a storm moves over an area that another storm has already passed over. So you just see continual storms. So I think the direction really shifts. We see those storms push in from the north. Then we're still having activity develop off that front from the north, but we're also seeing haze. Looks like it does push northeast. So I think Duval, Jim Wells, Live Oak B, that's potentially where we could see some of that training occur. So that's also if we see training of storms, so repeated storms one after another, especially if they're heavier storms, that's where we could look at potentially pooling of water and some flooding as well. Somebody asked, how is it looking tonight? They have something downtown tonight. So I don't know how late this activity goes, but I think you're probably good in the evening unless this front moves in faster than we think it's going to. Now, this model isn't perfect, so we could see some stuff develop out ahead of it, or again, it could be faster. So yes, the rain chances do go up tonight everywhere. However, if you are going to be closer to the coast, I think you're a little bit safer than if you're going to be in the brush country. Now, if you're going to be out close to midnight, 10, 11, 12 o'clock after that, you might see some rain, might see some heavier downpours of that. But in terms of evening activities, maybe a dinner outside or just evening plans in general, you would be rained on if you're in those northwestern counties potentially dealing with a storm. I would rethink, if you're in those target yellow zones, rethink some of your outdoor evening plans. Especially have a plan if something were to occur and you need to get into a safe area, like if a hailstorm were to happen. Somebody asked where the front is currently. And sorry if I'm not going in order for the questions, just as I'm seeing them, going back to them. Alrighty, it's hard to see on this because this doesn't have winds on it, but I looked, if you can see that initial push right here of like little showers right around the San Antonio area, that's where I believe it is currently when I checked the winds earlier. The way we know a front, by the way, is from opposing wind directions. So when we see northerly winds directly opposing southerly winds, that is one indicator. Not always a front. Sometimes you have high pressure and then you see some rotation with the winds. not tornadic rotation, but just in terms of one area being a north wind and one area being east wind. Then also we look at dew points. So fronts typically push out moisture in our area. That is not something we're really going to see. We are going to stay rather moist at the ground. Apologies to whoever doesn't like that word. Until around midweek, where we're watching another rain chance. So if we look at the 7-day here, you can see that our rain chances are going to go back up Tuesday, Wednesday, when we are watching for another front to pull through. We've also got a big honking low off to our west. Right now it's in Baja California, off the coast of that. And what that's doing is that is projecting some upper level energy towards us, and it will be sending more of that as it moves east. And that's going to be really the beginning of the week. It starts to move east, and we'll start to see some more upper level energy. Upper level energy helps with lift, so it helps grow clouds taller, would help grow a storm taller as well. So if we had both the front and some upper level energy, we could also be watching out for some storms. But right now, that is just something to keep your eye on for Tuesday, Wednesday. Apparently, I've been told this, it always rains over spring break. And I guess we're continuing that tradition this week. Somebody asked if main threat will be hail. We definitely could see some hail. I think likely we see strong winds in these heavier storms, but hail is not out of the question, especially in the brush country area. So the SBC, National Weather Service, hinting at potentially large hail, and we're not necessarily expecting that for every storm, but that's definitely in the realm of possibilities. For tonight, I do think wind is going to be a big thing, so potentially breaking limbs. Hopefully we don't see any power outages, but that's why if you have anything outdoors that you don't want blown over, don't want in your neighbor's yard, move that indoors. Plants, especially, you don't want hail damage or wind damage to your plants, to go ahead and move them indoors tonight. If you're in Live Oak, Jim Wells, Duval County, everyone can do it out of precaution, but especially those areas. Oh yes, somebody said don't forget we spring forward tonight. We do. So we will go from 1:59 a.m. to 3 a.m., which means we skip the 2 o'clock hour. Probably a lot of y'all asleep. I will be here at work. But we do that, and that is going to, we're going to see a later sunrise due to that tomorrow. So for all of you planning to go to church tomorrow morning, make sure you spring your clocks forward, otherwise you will miss church. But looking at this graphic right here, oops, you would think I would know by now that would make it disappear. Alrighty, looking at this graphic right here, you can see sunrise today was 6:47. We've been seeing twilight around 6:30, but tomorrow 7:46. So for those really early morning people that like to get a run in, well, tomorrow it may be raining, and we're not gonna see that sunrise until after 7:30, but maybe twilight around 7:30 there. But look at those sunsets. Those sunsets are later, so that's why everybody loves it. And then our first 8 p.m. sunset is going to be around April 25th. So that's something to look forward to. Oh, hey, everybody. My phone charged. I'm going to go turn that off real quick. Alrighty, with that, I think that's it. Unless there's any pressing questions. The main thing is that really between 5 to midnight, that is when we're going to be watching for some intense storms potentially intense storms in our northwestern counties. Brush country area, Duval, Jim Wells, B, Live Oak, that area is under a slight risk from the SBC Storm Prediction Center. So that's what we're going to be watching. We do have news at 6 p.m. as well as 10 p.m. Kristen will be she'll likely go live if there is anything, especially if there's anything severe warned. So just stay up to date with us. Keep on checking socials for when we go live again. We'll keep that information accurate as the day does go on. I'm just going to leave it on a live radar loop right now. And then that will be done. Thank you so much for everyone joining. Really appreciate it. And stay safe tonight.